been several people that have asked me to make a how-to video on how to install Science of Speed's window guide bushings and the window guide retainer, their billet retainer. Chris Loom made a great video on how to remove the door panel, so I'm just going to power through that and then we'll get started. Once you got your door panel removed, you're going to want to peel back your vapor barrier, this white plastic film, pretty far, just so you can access everything to do with the window regulator. Mine's kind of falling apart already because I went in here and greased the window tracks before I knew that I needed some bushing replacement. So you can use some other adhesive to get this sticky again. I don't really need it, but if you want it to look factory and everything, you can go ahead and do that. Only on the driver's side, you have to remove this electronic piece right here. The passenger side, there is not one present, so you don't have to worry about it. You just want to peel it back enough so you have this hole and this hole exposed. So the factory service manual wants you to put a block of wood in this hole so that way it can support the window when it's in the up position. I have a couple pieces of spare wood block that I shove in there. Once you get here, you're going to keep your door panel close by so you can apply 12 volts. To the window switch, so you can lower the window so that way your screws are accessed through this small hole and also over here, and you can unbolt the window from the regulator. You're going to remove two 10mm bolts to remove the window from the regulator. There's one on the left side and one that can be seen through this access hole. You have to lower the window down enough, I guess about 3/4 of the way, so that you can see those two 10 mils. This is where your blocks of wood are going to come into play. Once you remove it, you're going to kind of push that window up to prop it on those blocks of wood so you can remove the regulator without it being impeded. Be mindful of the position of the bolts on that regulator piece, and you can take a Sharpie and just kind of mark the outline to make sure it's back in the same position when you reinstall it. Now at least do one, because if one's correct, the other one's going to be correct, because there's not that big of a eyelet hole. Once you're here and the window is already raised and held up by that wood block, you can disconnect that door panel and put it aside for when we're all done. The regulator track is held up by a total of, well, the whole thing, the motor and the track is held up by 7 bolts. There's 2 up here for the top of the track, 2 right down here for the bottom of the track, and then 3 over here for the actual motor. The motor is attached by this one clip, and this plug is held on to another clip on the actual door. That's a push pin, so just disconnect that and then remove those bolts. And once you've taken all those 7 bolts out, you're going to kind of finagle whatever way best works for you to remove the regulator track and the motor. They are connected by a length of cable, so the manual says to push up then pull out. However, I've found it easy to shove the end all the way this way and then pull out this way. So let's see what works. There's an extra little clip right here holding the motor cable to the door panel. So just squeeze that and push it back in. And it's out. So what we're doing with the bushing replacement is adding little caps to these little feet. There's 4 corners on each side. And without them, it causes a clacking noise when it moves up and down like this. So before we get to those, we have to pull the cable from the retainer clip. This is much easier with a helper or a partner. My wife helped me with the other one, with the other side, the passenger side, and now I'm going to try to tackle this one by myself. So wish me luck. The factory service manual wants you to take 2 pairs of vice grips, grip the top of the cable up here and the bottom of the cable right here. And push down and pull up to free the clip from the end and push out through the middle. So the method I used off camera was I was prying up with my vice grips on the end of my vise using a straight pick tool to push this out from the clip from the back. Once you get the first one out, the second one should just pop out once you relieve the pressure on the cable. You can use that same pick tool from the rear to push it through. And now that's free. The next thing you want to do is unclip the top side cable guides so we can remove this. But if yours is missing them completely, you can just finagle it off like that. But there's 2 push pins right here and another release right here, and that'll remove this piece. We're going to need to remove it anyway to put the piece back on. And be mindful of the orientation, which way is up and which way is down. So the removal of the old pieces, if you look right here, there are little feet. There are 4 feet that help guide it along the regulator track. And then there's our white clip right here. There you have it. And the billet piece from Science of Speed is just reverse order. You just push it in from the back. And that's in. That one might be a little loose because it's not as tight as that plastic, which has some spring behind it. So if it falls out, we're just going to put that in just a second. However, the Science of Speed bushings, they're these bright yellow, so you can't miss them or lose them if you drop them on your shop floor. They're relatively easy. They have a tight fit. I don't know if they 3D print them or mold them or whatever, but there's a little tail that points away from the track. So you just angle them on, and then you use something to squeeze in there and pry them on. Like so. And just rinse, repeat 3 more times. And there you have it. So now the installation is reverse or removal. So we come to our top side, make sure the flat side is up, and we just slide it on. We take our cable guide and make sure it's in the correct orientation and slide it on. Our other cable guide and pop it into the 2 push pins. And don't forget your billet clip that you're going to put in from the rear. And then we're going to insert our first cable, which should be super easy. because there's absolutely no tension on it whatsoever. And the little hole from Science of Speed is a little bit smaller, so that's something to get by. It definitely took a lot longer because I didn't have a helper. But it can be done. Next, before you reinstall, take some Shin Etsu grease and put it on both sides of the track, above and below this slider piece, and some on the cables near the cable guides, just because it probably hasn't been done in a while. All right, now we go in reverse to reinstall. Now that we've got everything installed, we're going to reconnect just the window switch to make sure that everything is good to go right here. Also, be mindful that while you're here and you have everything exposed, you can reach your hand in here and grease the front window track, reach your hand in here and grease the back window track once the window is all the way up. That's what solved the majority of my issues before I even knew that these Science of Speed pieces existed, but I got sick and tired of the clacking, so that's why I put them in and installed them today. So just be mindful, grease your windows, don't let those cables bind up and potentially ruin your regulator. This is a super easy maintenance. Besides that stretching of the cable, that's the hardest part. It can be done, just make sure you have a partner. But while we're here, we're gonna make sure that we double check our work and that everything goes up and down smoothly. All right, no more clacking. The only thing we need to do is to reattach the window to the regulator. And remember, we have those wood blocks up. If you remove those, it's just going to drop straight down. So I'm going to put one bolt in, lower it down to the access hole right here, and then I'm going to install the other bolt. So now what we have is a fully functioning window and lubricated regulator. This is easy. Save yourself some time, save yourself some money, and fix your own stuff. Thanks for watching.